Marion, Wisconsin, my hometown. The legacy of an extractable environment. How it came to be, how it ended, and what it looks like today. Let's take a trip to Marion, Wisconsin using Google Earth. We will start by zooming into Wisconsin. Marion is located in central Wisconsin. And here is Marion, Wisconsin. You can see the Marion Pond. We're going to drop in on Main Street by the dam today. Over here you can see the pond. Here is Main Street. And here is the other side of the dam and the Marion Milling Company building today. Now that you know where Marion, Wisconsin is, we will begin by discussing how the extractable environment in Marion came to be. The area around Marion was a dense hemlock and pine forest. The need to harvest lumber led to settlement by those who wanted to operate sawmills. One of these first settlers in Marion was Joseph W. Perry, who built a sawmill in 1867 named Perry's Mill. The dam in Marion was built around the same time that Perry built the sawmill. This dam was not only a power source for the sawmill, but it also created what is now known as the Marion Pond from the Pigeon River. Although Marion is not located on a large enough river to transport logs using the water, this did not slow the boom of the logging industry. The start of the sawmill drew more settlers to the area. By 1876, the population was large enough for the area to be named the Village of Marion, and the legacy of this extractable environment took off. As the demand for transporting logs from northern and western Wisconsin grew, the construction of railroads began. In 1879, the Milwaukee, Lakeshore, and Western Railroad was extended to Marion, and the business of trade took off. The completed railroad transported logs out of the area and also brought people into the area. Throughout the next 20 years, Marion saw its heyday as many more people moved to the area and opened more businesses, including the Marion Advertiser, a newspaper that started in 1895 and that still operates today. As the local population grew, the pond began to take on a more recreational purpose. Pickerel, trout, and bass were caught at high numbers by fishermen and were common sources of food for the residents in the area. However, there were protruding stumps in the pond that created a navigational hazard for the fishermen and were eyesores in general. The residents decided to completely open the dam in the summer of 1906, which lowered the water level and allowed the stumps to be removed. This importance of maintaining a common pool resource can be explained by Ostram's idea of provision. This pond project was in fact a provision project, in which the collective action of the community came together and put money into maintaining the pond so that its resources would be sustained over time. The residents knew how important the pond was for fishing and how it was a feature that drew people to the area, so the cost of removing the stumps was justified by the argument of the pond's value to the business of Marion. This photo here shows the community coming together to repair the dam after it was opened to lower the water levels. This alteration ultimately improved both the aesthetic and recreational value of the Marion Pond, which resulted in the water moving from having a pure from value to gaining a more in value among the community. The pond became the center of the community and the location for many social gatherings. One of the centers for summer social activities was Poppy's Park, which was used as a meeting place, dance hall, and picnic area. Today, Poppy's Park is currently known as Wallace Park. The Marion Pond also featured Perry's Boat, which gave tours around the Marion Pond. This service was mainly a way for tourists who came in on the train to explore the area. When the railroad went out of service, Perry's Boat stopped its tours because the flow of tourists into the area halted. The mill is one of the most important features of Marion, as it originally caused the expansion of business and extraction in the area, and its death is also what caused the decline of settlement and business in Marion. Throughout Marion's history, the original Perry's Mill has been sold and renamed by many different owners, alterations being made along the way to better fit the demands of the time. However, one aspect remained consistent throughout every stage of the mill. The dam was always used as a power source. An increased demand from paper mills in the Fox River Valley caused many small-town sawmills to die down. In 1920, Harvey Lushkow bought the land and the water power rights and built a new mill, known as the Marion Milling Company. This new mill was used to grind feed for hogs, poultry, and dairy animals. As business at the Marion Milling Company died down, the mill eventually closed. The closing of the mill marked an important changing point in Marion. Once both the mill and the railroad were no longer in operation, there was nothing in the area drawing people in or keeping people here. Businesses began to close and people began to move away, marking the death of the once booming extraction industry of Marion. The feed mill still stands today as a reminder of what was. Let's review the history of Marion before we continue. Marion was first settled due to the area's promise of high levels of resource extraction, specifically the lumber from the dense forests. Sawmills were constructed to cut the harvested logs into lumber. The business of sawmills brought more people to the area and more businesses opened, followed by the opening of a railroad. Marion saw its heyday. As more people came to the area, the use of the environment took on a more recreational purpose. When the mill and railroad were no longer in function, Marion lost its vital infrastructure. These losses drained social aspects of Marion and eventually led to the downfall of a once flourishing extractable environment. Let's now look at Marion today and the aftermath of the infrastructural downfall. Around 5 years ago, I conducted a water quality research project on the Marion Pond for my chemistry class. I found that the water has elevated phosphate levels, which can cause an overabundant amount of growth, suggesting runoff from local farmland and the golf course. Marion spends a great amount of money cutting the weeds in the pond, but does not address the externality factors causing these consequences to the water quality. In the past, the community was willing to pay for the stumps to be removed from the pond. So now, the residents of Marion must ask themselves if they are willing to also invest in maintaining the water quality today. However, it has not always been this way. Today, I would never swim in this water due to the high number of weeds. But my mother used to have swimming lessons in the pond about 35 years ago when there was less growth, and brave kids today do occasionally swim in the water. My dad remembers a shift in the water quality once the golf course moved in. Can you describe what you noticed about the water quality of the Marion Pond after the golf course opened?
The weeds in the pond got thicker due to the fertilizer they used to keep the grass green.
From this, it is clear how the residents of Marion are part of the biotic pyramid, as their actions have harmful consequences to the local environment and the water quality. Many people live from the environment in Marion through fishing. There is no commercial use of fishing from the Marion Pond, but it is instead for recreational purposes. Unlike in Marion's history, the residents today do not live simply off the fish they catch. Nonetheless, fishing from the Marion Pond is still an important way in which the residents live from the local environment. Here are 3 pictures of my dog enjoying life while my family was out fishing on the Marion Pond. The Marion Pond is a public resource as everyone has access to the water. However, the fish themselves are an example of Ashram's idea of subtractable resource units. The fish caught and kept by one individual are not available to others since the fish are subtractable. For this reason, there are demand provisions in place that regulate the withdrawal rate of the fish so that their subtraction does not adversely affect the environment. Wisconsin DNR has regulations for the bag limit that prevent overfishing, but there is also a regulation that is specific to Marion. A fisherman can only keep 2 northern pike that are longer than 26 inches. This regulation was put in place to help regrow the population of northern pike in the Marion Pond. The hydropower supplied by the dam was a private resource as it was only accessible to those who purchased the water rights. The environment in Marion also has overlapping from and in values. Fishing not only shows how people live from the environment, but it also shows how the community lives in the environment at the same time. Every February, there is a fish derby on the Marion Pond. At this event, the pond becomes the center of the community where people begin to live in the environment. This ice fishing derby shows similar values to that of the kids fishing event that is held annually in spring. Parks represent the recreational use Marion residents have in the environment. The picture on the left is Wallace Park, which was once Poppy's Park. The picture on the right is Lions Point. Annually, on the first Tuesday of August, Family Night Out is hosted at Lions Point. The entire community comes out for a night of food, games, a 5K run, and fireworks. It is through this annual event where the residents of Marion live in the environment and create a sense of community through the recreational use of the land. We share the environment with other beings that have intrinsic value, even if we cannot get something from them. Most people would say that kayaking shows how we live in the environment. However, it is through my kayaking experiences where I gain a deeper connection with the environment. I enjoy the beauty of the environment and the serenity of the Marion Pond, but even without me, these things still have value. This environment has been here long before I have and will remain here long after I am gone. I personally do not only live from and in this environment, but I also live with this environment. Now let us summarize the legacy of the extractable environment of Marion, Wisconsin, how it came to be, how it ended, and what it looks like today. Marion was established due to the high levels of wood extraction from the local environment, which created a boom of businesses and brought more people to the area. However, as the use of local infrastructure shifted and went out of use, the population in Marion declined, and the area would soon resemble a ghost town. Marion today shows how the relationship to the environment changed after the downfall of infrastructure. The use and values of the land and water changed to more of an appreciation of the environment rather than simply extracting from it. Today, there are buildings that represent the history of extraction in Marion and how resource uses have shifted. The dam is still in place, but it is no longer used as a source of power. The residents of Marion are ignoring a possible renewable energy resource that is right in the center of the community. This dam promises a future where the utilization of the environment could be different than the current use.